Today is our International Student Care Group Sunday service. We've been looking forward to this because I personally have been looking forward to this too, because I see the work that happens through these guys' hearts, through their ministry, through their love of people to care for those who are away from home, and it's truly beautiful, right? Truly beautiful. Our service today is going to be devoted to hearing from them and hearing about the deeply rich history that this church has in caring for those who are far from home. These international students that come to universities around here locally who are really far from home, and for numerous decades, people have led efforts to care for these people from this church, from Elim Gospel Henrietta. So it's truly my joy, it's our joy to hear more about what they're doing, but also to hear about God's heart for the nations and how we can get involved. And we'll be hearing from a lot of the team today, but two of their leaders are the Martin family. The Martin family, super close to the Mariacker family's hearts, because as soon as we moved down to the Elim campus 4 years ago, it's like the first person, I pulled out of the U-Haul truck, stepped out onto the pavement, and there's Alden and Melody in their apartment, and just ever since then, they've warmly embraced us into the community here at Elim, and all the people here, and just been such a great friendship and such a great care for us throughout our time being a little far from home. Melody and her husband have been part of Elim for a long time and have given their lives to blessing internationals in a variety of ways. So let's give her, Melody, a warm welcome as she comes up to get us started here.
Thank you, Pastor Matt. Good morning. It's such an honor to be here. Okay, if you are anything like me, I was under the impression for a very long time that if I was going to reach out to someone from China, for example, that I needed a very specific call from Jesus to reach out to people from China. Or if I was to reach out to somebody from Africa, or anyone who is from a different nation, that like a missions call, a missionary call, a mandate, a specific heart for those people was going to be given to me from God before I was going to do any particular focused ministry. Does anybody else relate to that? Have you ever thought that? I think it's kind of common. But do you know what? I don't think that is the way that God works and the way that God wants to reach. Today, actually, Nathan, and I was thinking this morning, and God's, like, the overwhelming love of God was just the theme that was in my heart this morning. And if I could sum up international ministry in one word, it is love. It's love. And God's love is overwhelmingly greater. It's overwhelmingly more patient. It's overwhelmingly more gracious. It's overwhelmingly more kind. It's overwhelmingly more forbearing than I can imagine. And it's overwhelmingly more full than I have in my heart. But God loves the world. God so loved the world. And we're going to have the privilege this morning of hearing the history a little bit of international care and ministry that has come out of this church. And we're going to get to hear a couple testimonies. But I just wanted to preface this morning by communicating that loving others, loving people from different nations, loving your neighbor, is God's love is at the core of why we do anything that we do. And it bridges, God's love builds bridges into lives of people that you might never have felt a specific call of God to. But His love can build a bridge and can make up the difference for a lack of cultural commonality. It can make up the difference for you don't have the same language. It can make up a world of difference. And I hope that you will just get to see the heart of God today in a new way, because his love is so, so great. And it's great for us, and it's great for the world. And I hope today we get to and just see that in a fresh way. I want to start by welcoming Uncle Jim Gleeson. This man of God is he was one of the founders of an international ministry called All Nations that was birthed, and I'm going to let him share birthed out of this place, and I'm going to let him share a little bit about that.
Thank you. Well, good morning. Really, it's been a while since I have been really involved, but a lot's happened in my life, but I'm thankful that Eldon reached out to me and asked me to come and share some of the history of Elim. I actually came in 1989, so you can count back and see how many years that is to today. But came with my wife, went to Bible school, graduated Bible school, and I don't know, I see a few Elim people here that might remember David Spencer, Linda Gamlin, Pastor Dreyer. And I think the beginning of that really started in the 80s with Pastor Dreyer and David Spencer, where they were up at a conference, I guess a Billy Graham conference that was in Rochester. And there was a lot of international students for some reason, and they seemed to just come back with a real love and a desire to reach out to the internationals, and out of that came All Nations. They put the name to it, and they were under the umbrella of Elim Fellowship at that point. So there's been some changes along the way, but I come in here in probably 1993. David had asked me, he was ready to step down from the ministry. He'd asked me, I had graduated, asked me if I would be interested in taking over the ministry and overseeing it. And of course, coming out of Bible school, I was anxious and eager to get going with something. And I said yes to it. That was in 1993. I actually stepped down in 2010 through a series of events that came about in my life. But I so identify with what Melody was saying about the love of God, and that the only thing that can keep a person going year after year is that love. And we loved the students. It wasn't something we made up. It was just something that was in us. We loved them. We wanted to reach out to them. And I could go on for a pretty long time here, so I'm just going to stay here to my notes and tell you some of the things and share some of the things that we did through the ministry. It became, after a while, it became the ministry to internationals, and that was the ministry out of Elim Gospel Church. And that's where I left it, when I stepped down, and turned it over to Greg and Monica Ross. I don't know if any of you know them. They're down at Elim. But they took it over for years, and then after that, I guess it started to just fade a little bit, and then Eldon came along here. We're thankful to God for his willingness to reach out, because it is sometimes hard to talk to people of other languages. But Eldon has just a natural way of doing that. And I know Eldon because he lived with us. He was part of our international community. He lived with my wife and I for 3 years with the students. and then went out on his own to oversee a house. So there's some of the things that came about through the local church. We would usually always start it out in September with a welcoming picnic, because that's when the students came into the school. Out of that, we would, I gotta look at my notes here, we would have a furniture giveaway. And the furniture giveaway was one of the big highlights of the year, part of the ministry where David had collected a lot of the furniture through the winter time, and when the students came, they needed stuff. They needed furniture and stuff, so we had it available for them. We had to ask ourselves as we were reaching out to them, what do they need? What do they want? And then we saw that they had no furniture in their apartments, so that was a need that we could meet. Some of the people, my wife especially, taught English with some of the other women out of the church to the women up at the university parks, and because that was a need that was needed. And then we went through the year, we kind of did the same thing year after year. So we got pretty good at it towards the very end, at least I think so. And we had, forgive me, my eyes are not the best here, but we had weekend trips that we would do with the students, monthly luncheons to mainly foster friendship, which is being done, I think, now in the ministry here. We would end it in April with a big banquet, and would invite all the students in with the host families of the churches, and we would have one big go away before the summer. But I kind of really like going back to the shore. I'm from the shore, and I would take some of the students, maybe 12 to 18 students, and we would go down to the shore for 2 or 3 days, and they would stay with families in the New Jersey area. So we had started to reach and get connections with some of the other churches. We had a connection back there where we could go. We had a connection with some of the churches up here, and it just began to grow. And out of that, I can say I took a part of it, but David and Pastor Dreyer really started it in the local church here, and it just went on, and I think just truly out of a labor of love. It was the love of God that constrained us. We are thankful. I'm thankful for this little opportunity just to share my heart a little, and it's been a lot of years. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, year after year, that furniture giveaway, my goodness, I remember going and being amazed. Just people would collect things throughout the year, and then there was this one big church parking lot that was loaded with furniture, and it was such an incredible gift to students. Like, they would literally arrive, be starting classes, seeing their new apartments, which were bare, and it was a very practical way to meet a very real need. Thanks for sharing that. I want to next invite Yahweh to come and share his testimony. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eldon, for that. Good morning. My name is Yahweh, and thank you for this opportunity to give glory to God for Him saving me through the international ministry. I'm one of the fruits of Jim's ministry that God has called him to. So back in the year of our Lord, 1996, I came from Malaysia to do my undergraduate studies at RIT, just down the road here. And at that time, when I first got here, I stayed at the dorms. And even then, God was trying to get my attention, trying to save me, basically. So there were actually Christian students at my dorm, the Fish dorm. They called it the Fish, I don't know, Nathaniel something. But there were Christian students there that would share the gospel with me and even invited me to church. And I did go to church, which happened to be Victory Baptist Church, which is off of East Henrietta. I went a couple of times, but then it kind of cooled down, and I remembered praying the sinner's prayer, but I didn't have a true understanding of what that is, and Jesus didn't become personal to me, and hence there was no life change. I was not born again. So then 2 years passed. I moved out from the dorms to the campus apartments, and that's when I was befriended by 3 Indonesian students who happened to live at Jim's house, because Jim had not only an international ministry, but he also was renting out his rooms in his house to international students. So these 3 students happened to be Christians, and they befriended me, and they would invite me to do things with them, like watch movies, play board games, play Jenga, play tennis, and they would even chat with me for hours. So we became like close friends. And I remember when I was playing tennis, every time I lost a point or lost a game, I would be cursing and stuff, because I wasn't safe. I would be cursing. But these guys wouldn't curse, and I didn't notice that. I didn't notice a change. These guys were different somehow from other people. So then I got to know Jim and Louise, and I was invited to many dinners and was loved by them, and then started going to church with them. And I remember one of those Sundays in church, they were singing, they were worshiping with the song "Above All." I don't know if you guys know that song, but I closed my eyes that Sunday. And I just had an image of Jesus smiling down with his arms open, and tears just started coming down. And I at that moment, I understood how much Jesus loves me and what he did for me. So that was the moment. So that same Sunday, right after the service, Jim would have a Bible study for international students, and that was. Jim led me to Christ, the sinner's prayer again, and that was March of 1998. So last thing I want to say is what is special to me about the international ministry is that it is based on friendship evangelism. So these 3 guys, the Indonesian students I was talking about, they didn't just accept me like you would accept like an alien or some weirdo. But they actually looked for could see what was good in me and cherished that, and in a very godly way overlooked my faults. And they actually, I felt like they really enjoyed my company. They actually became genuine friends. I wasn't just like a mission, you got to get this guy converted, So I wasn't just a mission, I was a friend. So I think that is very powerful about friendship evangelism of our church. That's it, my testimony.
That's awesome. Thank you. I heard from Fukni last week. I was asking her, I was like, Fukni, when did you give your life to the Lord? Yahweh and Fukni are... Fukni, who is in the children's ministry this morning, she and Yahweh were high school sweethearts. And he, after receiving Jesus, shared with her, and she gave her life to the Lord. And isn't it just so precious, the way the Lord works? Okay, is Ray here? We have another... Come on up, Ray. Ray has been a blessing this season as we've started to just reach out to people. She's been a servant heart, she and her family. Come.
Hey, good morning. My name is Ray Zhao. I'm a research scientist at the U of R. But most importantly, my identity is a daughter of God through Jesus Christ. So I feel very privileged to stand up here to share a little bit of my perspective to the international students. I really appreciate our church is opening this ministry again, and also thank Eldon for inviting me. So I was an international student, similar to what Yahweh shared. I came to the US for school, and I did not believe there's a God. I was taught there's no spiritual realm. We're merely material beings. And when I came, I believed I have to rely on myself, my efforts, and I also believed I'm a good person. I'm much, much better than most of the people. Maybe only my grandmother is better than me. Then I would skip the details on my conversion. So through a campus international student Bible study group, so I was invited. So the first reached out by caring. They took us like grocery shopping. We didn't have a car. At that time, there was no Uber, no like Amazon, deliver or, yeah. So that's very needed. They provide rides. And then they invited us to the Bible study. So then that's how I became interested in Christianity. Then I realized actually I had a lot of misunderstanding about God and about Christian faith. So over a year or two, I realized that I was a sinner and I could not rely on myself to save myself. So I had to come to Jesus and receive the gift of salvation. And then I will share a little bit more about how I grow. And then there's a couple, older couple. She was, well, surely in the now in heaven with the Lord. I call her Grandma Grace, and her husband, Grandpa Jim. They were missionaries in the 1950s, missionary in Indonesia. So they reached out to me. They invited me to their house Sunday afternoon, have tea, and then we talked about my questions. And then I think really they demonstrated the love of Christ in doing things, not just to teach by words. They taught by their life. And then there's another couple about my parents' age. They also took me under their wings. They also call me their Chinese daughter. They actually came to Rochester to visit us a couple of years ago. They drove like 7 hours, come to visit us. So that's how long-lasting the friendships are. I still remember vividly after September 11th, the attack, Mary called me. She said, "Ray, if you feel afraid, please come to our house. Stay with us." So like 21 years later, I still remember exactly how she told me. So I'm very glad that our church is doing the international care ministry. And I also understand that everybody has different gifts. Some maybe have the gifts of teaching the word, evangelism. Some maybe have the gifts of serving. And sometimes we win international student not because we can argue, we can win the argument, there is a God, you are a sinner, but by loving them, they can experience the love of Christ in a very real way. Melody mentioned, students, they're away from their home, like thousands of miles. So in addition to help them to have a home away from the home, what we can do is more important. That's to help them to start the journey back to the eternal home. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Isn't she great? Chelsea, would you? Oh, are you next? Nope, I'm sorry. Andrew. Andrew is on our team. He is an incredible asset and a servant, and he wants to share about one of our students.
Yes. So I'm actually international as well. I don't know if it's obvious, but I come from Canada. Not a student, though. I think often when we hear outreach, we think that's something else we're going to have to add on to our already busy schedule. Or sometimes we hear outreach and we're like, well, there's a risk of being rejected if we're reaching out to our neighbors. One thing that I've noticed about international student outreach, it's almost like the students are reaching out to you. You're meeting students who want to be a part of your life, to experience your culture. And so it's not always about creating new events to try to bring them in, but you can invite them into regular aspects of your life. Like we hear about taking students grocery shopping. What if, when you're going grocery shopping, you throw out that invitation to the student as well? You're not adding anything extra to your schedule. First, that takes getting to meet the international student, so you'll have to come to an event first, get connected, make that relationship. But I want to share about one student in particular and how this played out. In November, we have Thanksgiving here. In Canada, it's October, but we won't get into that. And everyone, I'm pretty sure everyone in this room has a Thanksgiving meal with either friends or family, right? Well, that's a perfect opportunity to invite an international student into your home to do something that you're already going to do. And it's an event that's so easy to bridge and share the gospel with. And so we had one student, and this was the very first event that he attended with us. We had met him on campus, but he hadn't come to anything here at the church yet. And so we didn't even remember what he looked like. But he reached out and responded by email saying, yeah, I'd love to go and have a meal with an American family for Thanksgiving. Well, the family that he went to had the opportunity to share the gospel with him. And you know what? He decided to give his life to Jesus. He decided that he wanted to start a relationship with Jesus. And since then, we've been able to do life with him, right? Like over Christmas, over New Year's, he actually came to our place and he slept over one night. The next morning, we taught him how to make pancakes. And it's incredible to see just how open the students are and how willing they are to hear about Jesus. A lot of them don't know much about Jesus. They don't have a background with Jesus. And so I want to challenge you guys to open up your life and just allow them to be part of your life. And that's what I have to share.
That's gold. Chelsea, come on up. One more thing to share, and then we'll get to the message. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Chelsea. Some of you might remember in November, the church reached out about a reach out event. It was out of this place of wanting to bless students who were going through finals. We knew just from conversation with them that some of them were stressed, and so we did it. We put out the notice, and so many volunteers from Elim Life Church volunteered just their resources, money, right? Gifts. We collected so much winter gear, mugs, snacks, Starbucks gift cards, right? And we had people come together. I remember at the Sanders house, right? And we had people writing cards, handwritten cards to these students. And that night we started delivering these, showing up at students' homes and knocking on their doors, and just gifting them these baskets, right? And something memorable from that time was we had two Indian students who we've become very close with. They kind of came the next day for Bible study and then helped us deliver the rest of these baskets to all their friends, right? So imagine all of us, there's probably 7 of us walking through these apartment complexes, right, with baskets and gifting them to students. And they were just so surprised and just so shocked that we were showing up just to gift them something, right? And a lot of, these baskets had fresh fruit in them. And I remember, a lot of us just remembering, the fact that some of these students don't have money to get fruit. It's just something that they don't have access to. And so they were just so blessed. And I remember one of the students messaged me and just thanking me over and over again, just I'm so blown away by how intentional these baskets were, right? And so it was just a really cool event for us to pull together, and a really awesome effect of that was a few weeks later, we had the New Year's hot pot event, right? And we had so many students show up, especially a ton of Indian students. And the way we came to find out that a lot of those students came to that event because they had received a basket, right? And they just felt so touched and so loved. And it was just really cool way to connect with them, to meet new students, to tangibly meet a need and just help them feel the love of God. So yeah.
Yeah. It's really fun to reach into someone else's life. And I think what I want to leave you with is whether you're in a season where you're kind of in a slump, or whether you're in a season of life where you are doing great, reaching out into someone else's life is a gift that lifts you. Like, when you give, you receive so much, right? It has been the life-giving substance of our family's life. I would think all these front row over here is nodding. It has been life-giving to have the opportunity to reach out and to love international students. There's a lot of different ways that the sky is the limit, really, about in ways that you could get involved, because it really is as unique to you. I think about Chad, who's got a daughter. He's going to be teaching to drive very soon, right? Are we there yet? You know, something that a lot of international students need is a driving coach. They're wanting to get their permit. And if you literally are like, you know what, I have an hour a day on this afternoon, I'm going to be brave, or I'm going to get practice so I don't freak out on my own children. I'm going to, like, that is such a simple way. I feel like Eldon tells me stories about the things that he did when he was with international students. He was basically a barber. Like, he became a barber during those years because everybody needs haircuts, and you know, it's not that difficult to do at home if you practice 20 times, right? And the students are willing. But more than anything, really, the heartbeat of reaching out is relationship, and just being a place that you can go shopping with someone, or you just have the privilege of developing a friendship and getting to love a different culture and getting to love a different human in a way that it enriches your life, but really it's the power of the kingdom. And God takes we've seen it again and again, that God just takes the seeds that we offer him and he grows something that you could never even imagine. He is the one that grows. And sometimes it's so humbling because, you know, we're imperfect in so many ways, and I think when you step toward someone of a different culture, you just come face to face with differences, and it can immediately make you feel like, oh, I'm not prepared, or I don't know enough. I don't know enough about this person. I don't know enough about where they come from, that you could think this is not a natural fit, right? You're not talking to someone who has grown up in the same place. That there's an automatic recognition of differences. But that is actually the most beautiful thing to embrace. You can be a learner, and your world can be opened up, and you get to bring love into their lives in a time and a season that they need it more than ever, I think. So we have a lot of ways that you could join us if your heart was stirred, or you're like, what really do you do? We have started doing a Bible study that is for people who are interested students to come to on Sunday afternoons at 1:30 here at the church. Every week we try to do it. As long as we have people show up, we're here. So that's happening today. we've done a few events. You can get plugged in and just hear about what's going on by giving us your email. But we have a survey that we'll pass out at the end of the service that kind of you can respond about if anything that might stir your heart, like, oh yeah, I could probably give people a haircut, or I would love just to have a way to connect with students. Another really simple way, if you have a heart for prayer, prayer is what changes things, right? And one thing that we really want to see get off the ground this semester is doing a prayer walk, a regular prayer walk. And so I would personally love to talk to anybody who has that in their heart to do. It's been in our hearts to do, and it's really a simple, easy on-ramp, just where we go and walk around the campus and pray over it, pray for students, pray that the Lord would lead us and lead us to people. And so I'm going to turn it over to my awesome husband, and I won't give much more of an introduction than that. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for making us look good, Melody. Wow. Thanks for having us. I think one of the things that when Melody and I and our team realized, we have a little extra time. We're not where we're supposed to be. I won't go into that story, but we have a little extra time, and we talked with actually Victor. And one of the things that captured our heart and made us decide, let's pour our time into this thing right now, was that the heartbeat for international care was already here. He described how people have already been coming up to him or Matt and say, hey, when are we going to start doing that? And I learned out from the top down in the church, from the top leaders to the people who just come in every week, that it was already there. And so we could just step into it and be, hopefully be a flame to get it started, but it wasn't hard because we were stepping into something that it seemed like God was already doing. I just want to answer one question before I go into a little bit of teaching in the Word. Is this whole thing and what I'm going to share all gearing up to get you to volunteer? Is that what it's all about? And the answer is yes, of course. Like, what else are we doing here? No, I'm joking. No, there will be time for that. We are going to pass out a survey at the end. You can fill in. It's a little interesting. Just know if you check something, it means you're committed forever. You have to say yes to every event. No, you can do. You can share some interest or whatever. But we're going after something a little bit deeper than just that. We're going after a heartbeat of receiving God's love and giving it away. You ever hear that before? Receiving God's love and giving it away. That's the ELC mission statement. Okay, so let's keep going. I want to ask you a question. Let's see if I do this right. There we go. Good. Are you the missionary type? You know what I mean? Like the person who likes hot food and people of different colors and thinks about getting on a plane. Are you that type of person? I kind of am. I just am. Since I was early high school, I got into learning languages. I became a language nerd. I literally study languages in my free time. It's like my side hustle. And I always loved spicy food. I grew up in a Mennonite family, but my mother liked to put a little bit of love in there. And I just got used to it. I befriended Hmong students in my high school just because, I don't know, I just wanted to. And so I am kind of that guy, that's the missionary type. Some of you might not be like me. Some of you might be like, give me that meat, potatoes, and some bland boiled vegetables, and I'm happy. And you might think to yourself, there's a different word for foreigner. It's alien. That's about how I feel about it. They talk different colors. Sometimes they eat too much garlic. So you might feel that way. But I hope by the end of today, you will have something in your heart that says, yes, I am that type. And whether it's good news or bad news, the reality is that God calls us all as a family to be those who reach out to the nations. That's part of our heritage and our calling as believers in Jesus. So we're going to get into the Word just a little bit. I'm running out of time, so I'm going to try to keep it. I'm going to either talk too fast or cut some things out of my notes. I'm not sure which direction we'll go. In Genesis 12, 1-3, God spoke to Abram. At the time, he was called Abram. He said, "Leave your native country, your relatives, and your father's family, and go to the land that I will show you. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you and make you famous, and you will be a blessing to others. I will bless those who bless you and curse those who treat you with contempt. All the families on earth will be blessed through you." So a little bit of a backdrop. You remember Genesis 1-11. God created the world. We were part of his family. Mankind left his family. And we went our own way. And he split us up into many families in Genesis, I think it's 10 or 11. And then in Genesis 12, God speaks to this one guy and says, I will choose you especially, this family. You get to be a part of, you will become my special possession. And I will use you to rescue the rest of the world and the rest of the families. And let's just look at this. I want to unpack this just for a moment. God chose this family, talking about Abraham and the Israelite people, and now us as believers in Jesus. God chose this family as his special possession to bring all families back home. And I just want to park here for a minute because it's so important that we get the order right. God chose this family to be his special possession. We've got to stop there before we go on. We are his special possession. We are dearly loved. And if we get the order wrong, we're going to get all messed up. And the sharing was so good today, I'll probably be emotional. I don't know what's wrong with me. I can't even get through a book with my kids sometimes. So I'm not really an emotional guy except for when I'm talking, and then I am. I don't know what's up with that. But we are dearly loved. And we got to get that straight. I grew up in a Christian family. Probably a little. We had our own kind of brokenness, and just to be straightforward with you, this is my problem. This is where I get wacky, where I feel like God's called me to be something to pour out before I am able to feel His love. And sometimes we feel like we are, we're a cup, and God wants to pour us out, and He does, and we feel like He's going to pour 3 measures of blessing into us and pour out 3.5. You know what I'm saying? And it's not like that. He pours in and we pour out. And it's more of an overflow thing than it is a pouring out. But if I told you that following Jesus and reaching out was easy, then I'd be, I hope you think I'm smoking something, because I would be. Like, it's not true. Sometimes there is a pouring out. But let's get the order right? Let's remember that He wants to bless us. And He has made us His special possession. But we can also get wacky on the other side too, right? And it's so tempting to get inward focused and to think about all the messed up parts of our own lives or what we need. I see this in my kids, They tell me all the time what they need. And and we can get wacky in that way too. And so let's just remember this. If we just get these 2 things right, you are my special possession. I have called you to be a blessing. You are blessed, and you will bless. If we just get that right, we are on our way. That's amazing. We are to receive God's love and give it away. Let's just move on with a little bit more Old Testament background here. This is Exodus 19. This is right at Mount Sinai when God was making His covenant with the Israelites and giving them a national identity. He said, "Now if you obey me and keep my covenant, you will be my own special treasure from among all the peoples on earth. For all earth belongs to me, and you will be my kingdom of priests, my holy nation. This is the message you must give to the people of Israel. You will be my special treasure," you see it? "And you will be my kingdom of priests." What do priests do? They represent God to other people. I am going to skip over this baby. Okay. But this is the last part of that big quote. Psalm 67 declares, this is by Michael Morales from Legionnaire Ministries or something. Psalm 67 declares plainly that Israel had received mercy and even the priestly blessing so that God's way would be known on earth and so that His salvation would encompass the nations. Okay, let me ask you a question. Just, little Bible history. In your, see if I have the right, yeah, there we go. So how do you think Israel in general did in their role to be a blessing to the nations? What do you think? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Pretty much thumbs down, right? They got a few things right. But mostly as we look at Old Testament history and we look at the nation of Israel, we see, they were either, running away from God or inward focused or just totally didn't get it at all that God was choosing them to bless others. But God, right? Those are the two best words in the Bible. But God, but Jesus. Who comes along as the ultimate light to the nations? Jesus. Jesus is the ultimate example of reaching out to others. He is the ultimate missionary. He bridged the biggest gap. And he is the light to the nations. He says, this is in Isaiah 9:6, it's a prophecy. He says, "You will do more than restore the people of Israel to me. I will make you a light to the Gentiles, and you will bring my salvation to the ends of the earth." Now this quote here is about the servant in Isaiah. I think there's 4 different passages in the book of Isaiah, in the latter part of the book, that talk about the servant. And there's a little bit of question among, as you study this, is who is the servant? Is it the nation of Israel? Is it Jesus? That kind of thing. Isaiah 53 is the most famous one. And so I think in this one, it could be kind of like one of those dual things where, it could be in part referring to Israel, but it can certainly not be fully realized in the nation of Israel. This has to be Jesus. And so he is the light to the Gentiles. And thank God that he bridged the gap. And thank God that he makes up for all our faults. And thank God that he has chosen us as his special possession and that he has called us in to this great commission to reach the nations. And, we see this explicitly in the Great Commission, where in the end of Matthew, right before Jesus was raised up into heaven, he called us as a church to reach out, to go and make disciples of all nations. And then finally, we see it in Revelation, the book of Revelation, where there's that picture of all around the throne in heaven, God's throne. There's people from every people group, all praising God together as part of the great family. Okay, so I hope you caught some of that. But where do we go from here? What do we do with that? There are several ways to be to be that person who reaches across, who bridges the gap. There's giving money. There's people who go to the nations. But you know what? The nations have come to us. And today, you can be a part of reaching the nations simply by saying hi to your neighbor. I want to take a little poll. Who here, I'm just looking at the time. Who here actually lives next to somebody who speaks a different language? Like literally lives next to someone who speaks a different language? I do. Anyone else? Some of you actually speak a different language, which is cool. They are here. I looked at this up online. There's actually on the websites of the universities, more than 4,800 students from different countries, 120 countries at U of R, and about 2,000, almost 2,000 students at RIT last fall, with another 800 or so that were in doing work, practical learning through work and stuff. They're here. Let's do it. How can I reach out and love these neighbors with what I already have? What do I mean by that? Nations to neighbors. Oh, yeah, there we go. Oh, I got a you there. That's just to represent our Canadians and just international English in general. The nations have become our neighbors. How can I reach out and love these neighbors with what I already have? What do I mean by that? Well, you've heard it already this morning, presented so well. Do I buy groceries? Sure, why not bring somebody? Do I eat? Yeah, why not invite somebody over? Why not go out to lunch? There are ways that we can bridge a gap and reach out and love just by doing the things that we already do and just thinking a little bit intentionally, like just having a vision for it, having open eyes. Do I love to give haircuts? Do I like games? Some of you might actually like meeting new people. You know, some people, the idea of knocking on a door or knocking on a shoulder in a university, some of you might actually like that. Or if you don't, you would like the challenge. Let's do it. Do you burn to pray? We can pray. What do you have? What do you already have? Let's give it away. One little idea I'd like to just present as a not a thing that you have to do, but just a suggestion. What if every week you had 5 minutes or half an hour or whatever, just every week you took a few minutes to answer this question? Or first tell yourself, I am loved and blessed. And then, how can I be an outward-reaching blessing this week? Who knows what will come from that? You know, if just once a week you took a little bit of time to focus and pray and ask this question, and maybe from that we could have some rolling momentum. You know, what do I need to do this week? How can I reach out? It's just so easy to either get messed up in your own mind about like I need to serve, and you forget that you're blessed, and you forget who you are. You forget your identity as a loved son or daughter of God, and it's so easy to get inward focused too. And we need to be reminded of both of these things. To remember, I am loved, I am chosen, and I have been given the privilege of blessing others as well. Okay, so here at the end, what we're going to do is we're going to pass out a few surveys to you. You can fill them out if you wish. If you don't, it's okay. But you can put them, when you're done, you can put them over at the table when you go out this door. There's a little table where the communion stuff is. You can place them there or just hand them to somebody. And so we'll have a little time to do that. Pastor Nathan's going to come up and close the service, and after that we'll have a time of prayer as well. So if you wish to have prayer, you can come up here, Pastor Nathan at least, maybe Emily, Melody and I, maybe others will be here as well to pray for you. And I just want to invite you for prayer for a couple of things. If you're like me and tend to get messed up in the area of, it's hard for you to feel like a special possession. It's hard for you to receive love. Please come receive prayer for that. We're all in the same place. Or maybe you just feel freshly challenged, like I need to remember. Maybe I need to repent of becoming too inward focused, and I need to get blessing others into my focus. Or maybe you just have some needs I'm not thinking of. Anything, just come for prayer, and we would love to pray for you.